The I-team exposed Officer Presley's violations against the department's code of conduct and the red flags that happened before he was hired. Now that Presley has been arrested for Tony Green's death, Lindsay Gardner spoke with attorney John Phillips about the investigation, the charges, and whether the police department could be held accountable.
We found Presley had only been on the force for 1 year and 1 month. And in that short time, his personnel file shows he had 9 interactions documented, all before the fatal police-involved shooting. The GBI has yet to release Tony Green's autopsy report to the public, but attorney John Phillips says that and the body camera footage must have painted a clear picture to fire and arrest former Kingsland Police Officer Zechariah Presley.
This isn't a video game. You can't shoot a young man in the back just because he's not listening to you.
Phillips said the evidence must have shown Green was either shot in the back or far enough away that he could not have been a threat to Presley during the traffic stop that turned deadly. Phillips is licensed to practice law in Florida and in Georgia. He says Presley's troubles could still get worse under Georgia law.
They can still impanel a grand jury to charge for murder.
The News4Jack's I-team found documents that showed Presley had red flags before he was even hired by Kingsland Police. 10 flags warranted further review, including domestic violence, marijuana use, and repeatedly shouting at people. But Kingsland Police hired him anyway. And in that short 1 year and 1 month on the force, 9 incidents documented in his personnel file, including being accused of racial profiling and several instances of tasering.
During the trial, Presley's attorney kept saying there was a vicious fight. You tell me, where do you see a vicious fight? Officer Presley had no marks, no bruises, and he wasn't bleeding. Where was the vicious fight? His defense attorneys said that the vicious fight happened in 8 seconds. Yes, 8 seconds. But no cuts, no bruises. So you tell me, where was the vicious fight?
Look at that!
Okay, pause the video. Put on some headphones and see if you can hear a vicious fight. Do you hear any grunting? Any blows? Or any skin slapping skin? Or hand slapping hands? And oh, by the way, Tony Green had a cell phone in his hand the whole time. At one point in the trial, Presley lied and said he was reaching for his taser and his duty belt, and at the same time having a vicious fight, all while having a cell phone in his hand. Okay, pause the video. Hold your cell phone in your hand, and with the other hand, take a notebook and try to hold it and turn the page with one hand. Very difficult, right? See how ridiculous that is? It's almost laughable. Imagine doing this all for 8 seconds with no grunting and no bruises, all while having a vicious fight. Vicious fight.
Basically, the judge brought the jury back into the courtroom and questioned one of those jurors about a possible connection to the Green family. What I want to do right now is break down the jury panel that's been inside this courtroom all week hearing testimony in this case. It's made up of a 14-person jury of 8 men and 6 women. The 4-person, or the head juror, who is the person that was questioned, that is the only African-American person on this panel. So they're back.
You will see in this video that this was a mistrial, that there was a plot to get juror number 15, the only black juror on the jury panel, off the jury. I spoke to juror number 15, and she told me when she went back there to deliberate, and I quote, they were saying, we don't care about Tony Green, he's dead. All we care about is Presley. He has 2 sons, and that's all we care about. And she argued back with them and said, that's not what the judge told us to do. The judge told us to look at the facts of the case, and if it's with a reasonable doubt, then we must convict. She told them that they must look at the evidence and go with that. But there were 3 white men on the jury that she told me about. And one of them was Juror Tim, the one from the All on Georgia article. In the All on Georgia article, Juror Tim, he admits after the first day of deliberation, on that Thursday, that night, he went with his wife and researched the case. You're not supposed to research the case. That's juror misconduct, which can result in a mistrial. So Juror Tim and his wife researches the case to try to see if juror number 15 knew the Green family. He finds out that she knows someone named Yolanda Green. He finds out everything on Facebook is leading to someone named Yolanda Green. So he thinks that juror number 15 knows the Green family. But Yolanda Green, she's not even part of the Green family. She's from another Green family, from another county over. And that's kind of racist. So you think that all black people with the last name Green are related? That's not how that works. So Presley's defense attorneys tried to say that juror number 15 knew Yolanda Green. But Yolanda Green is not part of Tony Green's family. She's part of another Green family from another county. She just happened to have the last name Green, and she also happened to be black. So they must all know each other, right? This is what I'm saying. The judge brought out juror number 15, the only black juror on the jury panel, and they questioned her. And they questioned her about Facebook posts. They questioned her about Yolanda Green. The defense attorneys then questioned her. Then the prosecution questioned her. And then the judge finally came to the conclusion that she didn't know the Green family. So the judge allowed her to go back into that room, that deliberation room, where there was 3 white men that came to her and started cussing her out and started being discriminatory towards her, saying that she knows the Green family, and said, that's why you keep saying that Presley's guilty, because you know the Green family. And she just kept cussing them back out, and she stood her ground, and she said, that's not what the judge told us to do. To look at the evidence, and if he's guilty, we must convict. And juror Tim was one of those 3 white men. So they start being discriminatory towards her and start giving her pressure, saying that you're holding everything up, that you're not saying that you're guilty. They even tried to barter with her. They even tried to say that we'll give him the lesser charge. We'll give him the charge of violating the oath as an officer. If you say that he's not guilty of the manslaughter charges, he will at least not be able to be a police officer any longer. So they tried to barter with her, but she wouldn't budge. She stood her ground. And they pressured her so much that that night, that Friday night, she went to the hospital for anxiety. And so that Saturday morning, the defense attorneys, they brought up the same Facebook post but highlighted. And the judge told them, do you have any other evidence to say that this lady knows the Green family? So the judge dismissed that motion. But that morning, before the trial continued that day, juror number 15, she gave the judge a note and saying that these people were being discriminatory towards her. These 3 white men, and that's including juror Tim, were trying to pressure her to make her decision. We're trying to be discriminatory towards her. We're being vulgar towards her. And the judge just said, well, we'll dismiss you for medical purposes. You can't continue. And she said, well, I don't want to continue if they're going to be discriminatory towards me. And the judge just let her go and dismissed her and said, we'll just replace you with an alternate. And that's what he did. And now it became an all-white jury. And when she told me this, it all made sense. Because in the courtroom that morning, the first thing that the judge did before he started, he called out 3 white men, one at a time. And one of them was juror Tim. Juror number 15 told me after she was dismissed for medical purposes, which is she was dismissed because she told the judge she was being discriminated against. She told me that juror Tim from this All on Georgia article took over as the head juror person, the 4-person. So it was a plot to get the only black juror off the juror panel. And so that Saturday, the jury finally reached a decision after they got the only black juror off the jury panel. That was the day when they made their decision, anonymously. Sounds like a mistrial to me. This was a mistrial. In the courtroom, the defense attorneys changed the story. The defense attorneys said that Presley, quotations, feared for his life, that they had some kind of vicious fight that we couldn't see for 8 seconds. Then she said that Presley was trying to be nice to Tony by taking out a taser because he thought Tony had a gun, so he decided to take out his taser to be nice. Listen, I can't make this stuff up. This is what she said. Then she said that Tony got in a fight with Presley and ran away. But he didn't just run away. He turned around with his cell phone and pointed it at Presley. So Presley saw a dark figure in the dark, holding up a dark object. And so Presley fired and shot. Listen, I can't make this stuff up. This is what she said. So that takes away from he took off and I fired. That takes away from what actually he admitted to on the actual video. We have video evidence of him admitting the truth. But now they're saying that Presley thought Tony had a gun. But look at this. If you know that you have a cell phone, why would you stop in mid-run and turn around and point a cell phone at a police officer? What they tried to use to say why Zechariah Presley shot at Tony Green. They said that Presley feared for his life because he thought Tony Green had a gun. That Tony Green turned around with his cell phone to point it like a gun. Listen, I can't make this stuff up. This is what she said. Think about that. Wouldn't you just keep running? But no, this is the lies that they started. This is the lies, and I know they're lies. A blind man can see. Ray Charles, Stevie Wonder can see that there were lies. They changed their story to try to fit some false narrative. And they kept questioning anybody on the witness stand with hypothetical questions. And that's what they based their case on, hypotheticals. The police that they called up were agreeing to hypothetical situations. Hypothetical. And the only hypothetical question that the police officers didn't agree with Presley's defense was the hypothetical of, if you thought somebody had a gun, would you chase after him with the taser? And all the police officers said, no, we wouldn't take out a taser. We would take out our firearm. But Presley, thinking that someone had a gun, because he knew that he didn't have a gun. He knew, and he saw the phone illuminated the whole time. The whole chase, the phone was illuminated. So in the dark, you can tell when someone is holding up a cell phone. He knew it wasn't a gun, because after he shot him, he didn't say, put down the gun. Presley did not say, show me your hands and put down that gun. Tony died with the cell phone clenched in his hand the whole time. So there were lies. They were all lies. So you tell me, was this a mistrial? And I say to you, it was a mistrial. It was juror misconduct. It was juror tampering. Presley defense attorneys, Brown and Associates, I think that's what they're called. I didn't look it up, but I know they have their own law firm. And yes, they will have to answer to that. They have to answer to how they know about the Facebook post. And even on the All on Georgia article, it says that they reached out to juror Tim after the trial. Quotations, after the trial. The juror Tim on the All on Georgia article admits that Presley's attorneys reached out to him. You tell me if that's not a mistrial, and I will tell you that it was a mistrial. So after this video, go find Brown and whatever, Associates or whatever they're called. I think they're stationed out of Brunswick. So go check them out and ask them. Write them letters. Because guess what? I'm sure going to ask them. And I believe it was jury tampering. And so that is a mistrial. The state of Georgia did not have a fair trial, which is the people of the state of Georgia did not have a fair trial. And that is our constitutional right, the right to a fair trial. So we demand a fair trial. So we will keep fighting. We will prevail. Justice for Punch. Continue to fight.